Welcome to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. And now, your host and mine, Trevor Devall.
Well, it's been a long time, kiddies. A long time since I've posted the last episode. The glorious episode with Herr Terry Clausen. Herr Clausen, wonderful director, and he was here. And he did a lovely show for episode 14. But we're on to bigger and better things. We're on to episode 15. How's it going? Thanks for coming back. Sorry it took so long to get this episode out. I'm just so busy. Oh my god. Before we begin with what I am sure is shaping up to be a fine program, I actually have a letter I want to read. This is from a fan in Hawaii. This is from Val, and I read this and I thought, this made me laugh so much, I had to share it with you. So, here goes the letter. It says, "Good morning from Hawaii. Okay, I'll start with the basics. Love the show. I can't wait for the updates. I think you and your guests are hilarious. Enjoy listening to the actors behind the characters I've watched. Of the many things I enjoy about the show, I'm amazed at all the different accents you and your guests can do. The one that had me rolling/crying was you and Ian Corlett in episode 11 doing the Chinese accent. In Hawaii, we have a ton of Chinese people who, early on, immigrated from China to work in the sugarcane plantations on the various islands. So there are many aspects of the Chinese culture that we all here understand. Okay, history lesson done. With that being said, I ended up having to call for Chinese takeout last week. When the Chinese woman answered the phone, I had a flashback to the podcast. It took everything in me not to laugh. My self-control was further tested when I had to order sweet and sour pork. When I got off the phone, I spent the next 10 minutes laughing, saying, sweet and sour pork. And I could hear you, Ian, and Tabitha in the back of my head doing that bit from the podcast. So anyway, thanks for the laughs. I remember having a rough day at work, and that little bit turned my day around. Mahalo plenty, which means many thanks from Val. Well, thank you, Val, and thank you for the little bit of laughs there. Truly, the Chinese accent is one that we enjoy doing very much, I must say. And as a matter of fact, I just had to do an audition this week, and no word of a lie, all the characters were Chinese, and I was like, oh, this is a godsend! Oh, finally a chance to make it right. But I didn't get it, which broke my heart. Anyway, thank you, Val, for that. I am your intrepid host, Your intrepid host, Trevor Devall. This is Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests, episode 15. We are moving right along in our 20-episode series. Maybe there'll be more after that. I don't know. It depends how lazy I am. Quick note for those of you who are in Toronto and in the Toronto area. Myself and Brian Dobson and Brad Swale are all going to be at Anime North this weekend. So if you guys are in the area, come on down to Anime North and check us out. Anyway, enough of that garbage. Now, on to the real show. On to the reason why you've all tuned in today. My guest today is a very versatile and, dare I say, award-winning actress. And before I introduce her to you, perhaps you can guess who she is based on the clip. Here it is, the work of my guest.
Is there any fucking limit to how greedy you can be? Are you really that pathetic? Don't you have any pride left in you?
You really think you can judge me, Mr. White Collar? What do you know about my life, huh? What the hell do you know about me? Go on, why don't you tell me? A guy like you who spent his life in a safe little bubble has no idea what I've been through!
You're right. There's no way I could know that. I'm not you, after all. But still, let me ask you this. Other than the fact that I'm white collar, what do you know about me? It doesn't matter who you are, or how you live. We all have to suffer, right? You have no intention of understanding that. Instead of owning up to things, you'd rather play the part of the tragic heroine. That's the most cowardly thing about you, Revy.
Shut up! It's convenient for you to see it like that! God damn it! This isn't one of those cheap, picaresque Hollywood films you love to talk about. There are And what's all this about pride? Fuck your pride. Look around you. It's shit as far as the eye can see. I hate to break it to you, but there is no fucking Robin Hood.
If there's no Robin Hood, then why don't you become Robin Hood? It's gotta be better than feeling sorry for yourself. Crying about your hard life.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up, damn it! I'm serious! I'll kill you!
Then do it. Keep chasing your tail like a dog if that's what you want. If you kill me here, then you'll just end up proving me right.
That's all I know how to do!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the one, the only, the potty-mouthed Maryke Hendrikse.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for being had.
You're welcome.
Saucy. Wow, that was quite a performance.
Thank you.
That's actually, I've heard some stuff that you've done in Black Lagoon when I was recording it, but just little snippets. But that's the first sort of extended, because I haven't actually watched the show yet, but that's the first sort of extended thing I heard, and I was like,
Whoa.
wow, that's a lot of bad words.
It is a lot, yeah. That's actually my favorite scene.
Well, that sounds so meaty.
Yeah,
it sounds,
it is good.
like there's a lot going on, man.
Yeah, there's a lot. Actually, the show in general reminds me of theater, of doing theater.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and that scene in particular was just so, I think, revealing about the character.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something on this. No, I have to ask a question. When you came to that scene, because when I heard that clip, I thought, okay, you know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like to me like one of those scenes where the director and the technician can't wait for the actor to get in the booth so they can go, oh, the scene you've got coming up. Oh. So was there any of that going on?
There was some of that going on because Brad had gone in before me.
Yeah.
And so James Corrigal and the director, and I can't remember who was the engineer. That's awful, isn't it? There's always a different engineer.
Well, they do change.
They do change. So I can't remember who it was that particular day, but they were saying, we cannot wait for you to do this. Brad did such a great job. So
yeah, he was. I mean, that whole first bit when he's I had to cut out a whole first section of that clip where he's going off
he's
on you.
On me.
And I was like, oh, Brad, it's fierce.
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, I could hear some of what he was doing. Obviously, not all of it. And the first time we actually saw it was at a convention, at the anime convention here in Vancouver.
Right.
And they played a preview for us, and it was just really. It was cool. It was very cool. And that's not generally what people expect out of me.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. But we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that, yeah.
We'll talk about that. In fact, we'll talk about that right now as we go in and discover the history of Maryke Hendrikse.
And now, Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests presents In Memoriam, a history of our guests' long and faithful service to the cause of voice acting.
So, once again, thanks to our friends at IMDb for putting together a comprehensive list, which we will now test and see just how accurate, in fact, it is.
Alrighty.
Bratz is the first one here, and you are Yasmin.
And that's true.
And I had the pleasure of watching, actually, I think it was a Bratz movie that we did that for some crazy reason you weren't in.
Oh,
the Fairy Tales one.
They don't want me to play the little girl. So I'm allowed to play the baby in Bratz Babies with a Z.
Yeah.
And the teenage Yasmin, the one in the TV series and in most of the DVDs. Yeah. But the new Bratz kids, they don't like me as a 10-year-old. So
but they still use some of the original cast.
They use the Chloe and the Sasha.
Yeah.
The regular girls that we always work together. Yeah. And then they don't use the Jade and the Yasmin.
Wow.
So, and I auditioned.
Bizarre.
I had to go in and audition.
Audition for a role that you already
I already play, yeah. It's, you know what, it's
a crazy business.
It's fine. And actually, I do find, and maybe I shouldn't even be saying this in public, but 9 and 10-year-olds, I find actually a little bit more difficult to play than anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because teenagers, generally speaking, they're not that far off necessarily my normal voice as it is, and also their attitude, the way that they are is slightly more accessible for me, and little kids are accessible for me because there's a really joyful aspect to them, but they're this 9 and 10-year-olds, they're not quite adults, and they're not little kids anymore, and I find that actually very difficult. So,
They
they
fall between the cracks there.
They do, for me anyways. I mean, the odd time I can sort of pull it off, but probably not as well as they wanted to for these things. So
wow. Well,
that's my guess. I mean, I don't know whether that's the actual reason why they didn't cast me. It could have been because I can't do a voice of a 10-year-old, but
they told me it's because they hate you.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Because then again, I was on the show and you weren't. So.
I'm gonna go. No.
You can't go. There's an hour left. No, I watched it and I was very excited, and then you weren't in it.
No, I'm not in it.
Well, that's,
It's apparently the best one, too.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So, I'll just...
But the one they have listed here from 2008 is Camp Starshine.
Yeah, now, I think that has a new title now.
Oh, really?
And I'm not totally sure, but they just released that in theaters in the United States for one day only. And it was called... One Day Only, starring the Bratz. And it was called Bratz Girls Really Rock, I think.
Really?
So I think that may be the new title. And we had a title in between those two things too.
Huh.
When we came in for pickups or something, it was a different title entirely. So it's three different titles. So
Okay.
that's right, I guess, to a degree.
Okay. Well, we'll take your word for that.
All right.
Johnny Test.
That's right.
Johnny Test is the next one here. Susan Test. Now, this show I just saw for the first time like a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah?
And I saw it and went, why am I not in the show?
I love it. It's actually been one of my favorite projects that I've ever done. I love that show.
39 episodes.
Yeah, we did 3 seasons.
Wow. And so what was the character? And what was...
My character is Susan Test. She is one of twins, Susan and Mary.
The crazy mad scientist.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And the brother, Johnny is the brother, their little brother. And my character is a very type A. She likes to scream at people. She's a little wound up, very kind of precise and organized, but crazy. At least that's how we veered into that.
I wasn't how they wrote her, but
that's how I made her.
The next one we have here is Sushi Pack.
Oh, yeah, I was on an episode of Sushi Pack.
Oh, it's just one episode.
Just one episode.
Hideki is the character.
Hideki.
And what was Hideki? Because Sushi Pack is, of course, about a bunch of sushi.
And I was a little octopus that came to find Taco, I think I can't remember exactly, but I was a little octopus, and Taco had no family, and this little cousin, Hideki, came to find him to invite him to some family reunion or something like that.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's right.
Wow. That's not at all close to the guest that I did.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything. Just pointing that out.
Well, you did Bratz, whatever it was.
Touche!
Yes, so there you go. One Trevor, one Maryke.
That's right. Just tune in for the mad game
the
set
rubber match.
Hack Roots is one that they did at Ocean, right?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Now that show, I wasn't on that one either, but that was the show. What was that about? It was like a video game that had... it came true or something, or do you recall what was the...
I do recall, generally speaking, it was a bit confusing.
Really? An anime?
Yeah, seriously. And I get teased for this all the time, but I generally read my ADR scripts before I go into the studio.
Okay,
so
I want to come back to that,
okay.
because that's something. I want to come
nerdy.
back to that.
Okay, so... It's sort of based on, or not based on, because I guess this came out in Japan before World of Warcraft, but it's that. It's that it's these role-playing games, this role-playing game, this world, and they all, you make guilds and you go out and, cause mayhem or whatever they're doing, solving quests and all that kind of stuff. And there is, towards the end of the show, you do get to see my character, as well as some others, their real world selves. They start to reveal some things about themselves in real life.
Oh, I see.
Behind the little characters that they've created. So Tabby is actually the character that this unknown girl has created. It's her. I don't know if you call it an avatar. I'm sure everyone's going to be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know anything.
And it's nothing.
So the whole show is about sort of this fantasy world, and you start to eventually see the players.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. All right, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. It was fun, actually.
Cool. Bratz Babies, the movie.
Okay, yeah.
So I didn't even know there was a Bratz Babies, but there it is. So what's the difference between the Yasmin baby and the Yasmin teenager?
In terms of voice?
In terms of voice.
We just sort of pitch them up like a little bit, higher and cadence a little bit different.
So
There's actually not much difference. And then they tweak it a little bit in the studio.
So it's a combination of actors changing a little bit and then them actually physically.
Yeah, and not too much because I've heard it and it doesn't really sound that much different, but they do definitely do a little bit of tweaking.
Cool. I've never seen the babies stuff. I have seen a little bit of the regular Bratz TV show that we worked on. I didn't realize it's kind of cool looking. It's kind of CG.
Yeah, it is.
Looking neat stuff. You did an episode of Class of Titans.
I did. That was when I first moved here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice way to sort of break in.
It
Doing
was.
a show. That was a fun show for us to do.
It was.
I hope it comes back, and yet I suspect it won't.
Well, you guys did 2 seasons.
Two
didn't you?
seasons.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it didn't really take off in the States for some reason. We're not really sure why, but well, here's hoping.
Yeah.
Here's hoping. And of course, Baraku Ragoon. Baraku Ragoon, which we heard the Kripa
Yes,
from.
we did.
I'm always joking about how if you really want to learn how to master the Japanese accent, you just read the listings in IMDb because they write them phonetically.
Yep.
As would be spoken by a Japanese person. Baraku Ragoon. There was a
that.
show, I think I may have told this story before, but there was a show not too long ago where one of the characters' names was Wilhelmina. Wilhelmina. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, well, that's Wilhelmina. Right. Clearly it's Wilhelmina.
Mm-hmm.
So
Makes sense.
in the record, I said, Wilhelmina. No, Carl stops me. And it's actually Wilhelmina. I said, no, it's actually not Wilhelmina.
No,
it's actually Wilhelmina.
With an accent.
With a Japanese accent, but we're English speakers now. So should we really be saying it like we have Japanese accents when clearly we don't? So let's take our name back! It was very frustrating.
What did you end up having to do?
Wilhelmina.
Okay, then. Great.
Actually had to say Wilhelmina.
That's
Yep.
great.
Oh, it pissed me off. How many episodes in total were there of Black Lagoon? Do you recall?
I think there were... maybe 36.
36?
Yeah, I think so. I have the DVDs, actually. Well,
okay.
I have 1, 2, and 3 DVDs, 1, 2, and 3, and they're not releasing. At least in North America, they're not releasing.
Do you know why that is?
Yes, because Genion ceased North American distribution, so they closed up shop in North America.
Really?
That's what I saw on the internet because I went to look.
Any reason behind that?
Not that I know of. I'm sure there is, but
I've heard from some fans that possibly the reason why that kind of stuff is happening is because of this whole that the ADR companies are losing money because of piracy. I've heard that because so many people are downloading their anime and stuff. This is actually something that comes up at conventions all the time, is this question from the fans saying, what do you think about this stuff? And frankly, I don't know enough about it to have an educated opinion.
No, me neither.
But wow, yeah. Well, I only did, I think, 5 or 6 episodes.
What was your
I played a couple of guys. I played Chang, who was one of the bosses.
Oh, yeah.
And Legark, who was the crazy Irish...
Okay. Those two, Shenhua and Legark. How do you say his name?
Legark.
I never had to say his name. I just called you asshole or something like that. Anyways, those were some funny episodes.
Yeah, it was nice.
That
was nice.
They're awesome.
For me to come in and add a little bit of levity to what is otherwise a very serious and exciting show.
Very serious.
Actually, Tabitha just lent me the first DVD of Black Lagoon, Baraku Ragoon.
Baraku.
So I'm going to watch it.
It's good.
Yeah, actually, it looks, and it's a big fan favorite. People are digging this show.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, big
That's
time.
good. That's good.
The Barbie Diaries in 2006, apparently. Do you recall this?
Oh, yeah.
Regan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was... You know how they have the Barbie Fairytopia and with the fairies and all the nice little things, and then there's this other stuff called My Scene.
Yeah.
And I think it's a My Scene movie, but I'm not totally sure. It was a while ago, obviously.
Right.
But I did play somebody named Regan in something about Barbie Diaries.
And you were in Transformers Cybertron.
I was, yeah.
Playing Thunderblast. Was that an actual Transformer?
Yes, she was a female Decepticon.
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
It was very cool.
So you do play the villains, it would seem.
Yeah, and she was a funny villain. She wasn't villainy as in the way that Revy is, and certainly not anywhere near that voice type.
Right.
The kind of Thunderblast was she was kind of a bit flirtatious.
Ah.
That's the kind of villain she was.
Cool. Sexy.
Yes.
Sexy parties. There's so much here. Dreamfall: The Longest Journey. What's that?
Oh, that's a video game.
Oh, cool. All right.
I never do video games. That's the only one I've ever done. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was that through? Do you recall? Where did you record that?
Airwaves.
Oh, was it Airwaves?
Yeah.
My Little Pony.
Oh yeah.
Brightly.
Brightly. I've played her a couple times.
I had said
She's so
before
cute.
that I was angry at the fact there were so few male characters because us males in the business, we really get the shaft.
I was just gonna say.
It's really not enough work for us.
From the times of Shakespeare when you played all the women roles too.
But I thought I had this idea for a new character called Warhorse that would make a guest appearance, and I thought that might be an interesting direction. Maybe a spin-off series to go.
Well, Bratz was a unicorn.
Oh,
She's
well.
a little tiny unicorn.
See, we could fight.
See?
We could fight.
Big horns.
Warhorse, and I'm telling you, there's something there. There's something there.
Yes.
Elemental Gallade.
Oh,
You played a character named Mina.
That's right, yeah.
Mina. That's a while ago now, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Elemental Gallade?
barely remember.
Gundam Seed Destiny.
Yeah.
Who are you in Destiny?
Luna Maria Hawk.
Luna Maria Hawk. There it is, right there in front of me. I didn't even have to ask.
Oh.
Were you in
But it's-
Gundam Seed, or did
No,
you
just Destiny.
come on for Destiny?
Yeah.
The new one apparently is on the way.
It seems.
They say.
Yeah.
Although I don't have high hopes, actually.
Well, you
I
never know,
think-
do you?
I think the Gundam may be finished for Trevor Devall. I think that may be the end of the Gundam stretch that I've done. Oh well, we shall see. Tetsujin. I remember Tetsujin.
Oh, I love that show.
That was the one. That was the really cool looking one, wasn't it? That had sort of a film noir look to it. I remember that show now. I was like the mad scientist who created the big monster.
The Tetsujin.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
that
that's
was
very
cool.
It was a cool show and
was
very
neat.
creepy.
Yes,
There
it
were
was
some
very
really-
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah. I replaced somebody on that, actually. I think she did the first maybe 3 episodes or
Oh, yeah?
something, and then I replaced her and did the rest of the series. I think she moved or something.
Inuyasha.
Inuyasha.
Everybody's done their
done that,
stints on
yeah.
Inuyasha. And most people don't remember what they did. But it's a very
I
big-
remember.
Oh, yeah?
She was a warrior. I remember that. Her name was Tsukiyomi, I think.
Look at you.
Is that right?
You're remembering
Yeah.
all this stuff.
I thought.
You get the prize. That's great. The Berenstein Bears.
Oh yeah, I played a character on that. That was when I was still living in Toronto.
Oh, this is Toronto stuff.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It was just a guest role. kind of.
Hikaru no Go, the extraordinarily exciting show about the game of Go.
Oh yeah, I did that here. Okay.
Yeah, we did that at Westwood.
Yep.
Good old Rob Bakewell. the
That's
man on
right.
that one. What else have we got here? Got so much. The movie mysteries? The Moville mysteries?
Oh, Moville Mysteries.
Moville
that
Mysteries.
That was a very fun show. I
that's
played.
Toronto one.
Yeah, that's a Toronto show. I played a recurring character, and then I also did 2 guest leads, that were kind of interesting.
Cool.
Anyways, that was with Frankie Muniz, actually.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Braceface.
Yeah, Braceface. That's the Alicia Silverstone. She produced it. That's
really?
from Toronto too. Yeah.
See, this is it, because most of the time, the people that I interview are sort of Vancouver-based have
Yeah.
as well, so I recognize most of the shows. But this is
Going
nice,
down the list.
actually, that we see some Toronto stuff here. Makes me feel more cosmopolitan. Rockman, or better known as Mega Man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mega Man.
I played a little girl that looked like Raggedy Ann.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, well, she reminded me of that.
Anetta?
Yes, Annetta.
Annetta. See, I could have said anything, and you would have said, no. I could have said, Judy? No.
No.
It was Annetta.
I might not have remembered
You see,
Annetta,
kids,
but
she remembers who she plays, unlike me. Terrible at these conventions. So what did you play in this? I don't remember.
well, when somebody puts me on the spot, that sounds like they're, I don't mean puts me on the spot, but when someone asks me, I have a very hard time saying, I can't remember what I've just done recently. But if you're asking for confirmation, then it's easy for me to go, oh yeah, that show. Yeah, okay, I remember what I
Wow.
played.
See, I couldn't. I could. There's no way I could remember any names at all. Like a couple ones because they're sort of bigger, but
you've
no idea. I don't
Interesting.
recall at all. And that's not something you should be admitting to the fans. But sorry, guys.
Well, it's, you do something different often every day, so it is sometimes
exactly.
difficult to remember.
And when there's so many voices in your head, it's
See, there
so
aren't
hard
that many
to
in
remember.
mine.
Oh,
So,
I beg to differ.
well,
I
certainly
beg
not
to
like
differ.
lots of you guys.
Mythic Warriors, Guardians of the Legend.
Oh yeah, that was one of the first voice jobs I ever did. I played some village
First
girl.
village girl.
Yeah.
This could be like a game show.
Yes.
What else have we got here? Rescue Heroes. Didn't Rescue Heroes?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of episodes of that. That's from out of Toronto too.
Really? Because
Yep.
I remember doing like a pilot here or something for Rescue Heroes.
Yeah, you may have, and maybe they ended up. You know how they do one season sometimes in one city, and then they move it to
Right.
another. So that could have very well
That could be
happened.
what happened.
I did a few episodes of that.
Blasters Universe.
Oh yeah, now that was my very first lead in a series.
Oh, yeah?
I played a little alien girl named GC.
Yes, you did.
Yep. She was cute.
Married to It in 91.
Oh Lord Almighty!
What is that?
Well, that's what I used to do on camera.
Oh, look at you. Got some on camera.
A little
Look
bit.
at you.
A little bit. That was actually with a director called Arthur Hiller, who's very
I know that
yeah,
name.
he's quite well known.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard of that guy. My Secret Identity.
Oh yeah. So ridiculous. Yes, I was in My Secret. That was my very first. I think that was my very first professional acting job, but I'm not completely
Wow.
sure about that. It was certainly 1, 2, or 3 on the list.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, I was going to ask you, but you know what? We'll get into
Okay.
history and talk more about how you got in the business.
Okay.
Because I'm very interested to hear from a Toronto perspective.
Okay.
What it's like
How
over
it-
there, because we've sort of beaten the horse to death here about
In Vancouver and how you get started.
Yeah, but I'd love
Okay.
to know what it's like in another center.
Okay,
especially
sure.
a giant center. But before we get to that, we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back with Maryke Hendrikse. And I want to talk about your award too as well. Don't let me forget about that.
okay.
We'll be right back with our special guest Maryke right after these messages.
Thank you.
We interrupt this eargasmic cornucopia of pure audio win to shamelessly promote another podcast. No! The Big Bald Broadcast.
But what makes it big and bold?
The Big Ball Broadcast brings you news on all things geeky, movies, gadgets, games, cartoons, and anime, and other random fandom.
You're fired.
I'm fired.
Get out of the booth, Jack.
No, I like it in here.
But what makes it big and bold?
It's hosted by Big Bald anime and video game voice actor Kyle Hebert, and his co-host, musician and upcoming author, Otherworld Steve.
Oh, you must smell like feet wrapped in leathery burnt bacon.
Subscribe via iTunes or visit thebigballbroadcast.blogspot.com.
That was totally wicked!
Any cat owner knows that they can be fickle. Just ask Bruno. That's why he insists I buy him Kitty Biddles. Kitty Biddles is the only cat food with all the flavors Bruno craves. Real beef and bird with the delicious taste of fish innards. Believe me, he can taste the difference between Kitty Biddles and the other brands. Once I tried to buy him a different leading brand and he didn't like it. Well, he gets emotional. It's just that he loves Kitty Biddles so much. If he knew I was talking to you, he'd probably... I can't talk to you now. Coming, Bruno! Are you hungry? Puss, puss!
Kitty Biddle's unique blend of animal parts ensures your cat a rewarding, delicious meal that he deserves after a long, hard day. Kitty Biddles! And a little peace and quiet, for Christ's sake. Is that too much to ask?
You have to go now. I can't talk.
You're listening to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests.
That's awesome.
That was fun to record.
That's my cat, by the way. Anyway.
Much thanks to Dylan Reimer for that script. As always, that's my funny guy. I call him up and I say, "Hey, I need to record something kooky for the show," and so he sends me a bunch of junk.
Well, that one's great.
Thank you. And my friend Marjorie Malpass, who recorded the announcer. Thank you so much. So we are back with the lovely and talented and award-winning Maryke Hendrikse. Now I want to start with that.
Okay.
Tell me about this award that happened a couple months ago now.
Yeah,
Right.
February, I think it was.
All right. Bring it on. Lay it on me.
Well, it's the awards are called the Elans, however you want to call it. How do you want to pronounce it? Elans. And they are the Canadian Animated and Electronic Arts Awards. And this year they had a category that last year was the first first annual awards, and this year was the second, but this was the first year I believe that they had voice actor awards given out.
Right, yeah, because the year before they didn't. It was all technical stuff.
Yes.
And it was hosted by William Shatner.
Yes.
And this year...
It was...
The great... Well,
what was his name?
Seth MacFarlane.
I was like, Stewie,
yes,
Peter Griffin.
I'm sure he'd answer to Stewie.
He was funny.
I heard that the whole awards ceremony was quite interesting.
Oh, yeah. It was... suffice it to say that the only thing that I looked forward to, because I was terrified, because I thought, oh my God, if I win, I have to get up and talk in front of all these people. And I know that sounds ridiculous coming from an actor, but I'm terrified of doing something like that.
Really?
So, yeah. So up until that point, up until they announced my category, I was petrified. And the only thing that I was looking forward to was seeing which clip they used, like what they submitted, like at the Academy Awards when they play the little clip. This was what happens. Nominated Maryke Hendrikse, Susan Test, and Johnny Test. My character kind of appears on the screen and goes, what? And that was it. And I was like, oh my God. I've been terribly nervous, about to vomit, and that's what I get?
Wow.
And then they announced my name, and I was like, oh no. Oh,
so
God.
So the award was
It was for
specifically
Best Female Voiceover in an Animated Feature or TV Production.
And you won.
I did.
Well, look at you. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was crazy.
Wow.
Very, very flattering.
And everybody talks about the wonderful and classy speech you gave. They said it
Seriously?
was... Yes, they do. They all say it was the highlight of the evening, actually. They say when Maryke came up there, she was like $1 million.
Aw.
You didn't know that?
Well, Terry said something to me the other day, and actually Terry Klassen, who you had on, right? Because out of all the people I thanked in my speech, I forgot to thank him because I was so terrified.
Right.
And he's the director of the series. So I sent him a note afterwards just apologizing and saying, it was no reflection on my esteem for you. It was just that I was terrified. And I saw him the other day at an audition, and he said he got my note, and then we laughed about the malfunction of all the clips and things like that. And then he said, your speech was... the highlight of the night. He did say that, but I didn't realize that it was more than he that said that.
Oh yeah, no. Everybody who was there actually that I spoke to were all saying that too. That it was like you were this breath of class that came in and made the technical gymnastics that the show turned out to be.
It was rhythmic gymnastics with the hoops and the ball and the that's the whole 9 yards.
So tell me, Maryke, how is it you got into this crazy business? Now you're from Toronto originally.
I am from Toronto. I was not born there, but I grew up there from the time I was 2.5. Okay. I was born in the Bahamas, but anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So when I was 5, I believe, I said to my mother, I was apparently watching ballet on TV. I pointed at the TV and I said to my mother, I want to do that. And so she enrolled me in little dance lessons, and then it just kind of crept up from there. I always wanted to be a performer. That's all I've ever wanted to do with my life. And then I ended up at professional ballet school in Toronto, and after I'd been there for a few months, I got sort of sat down. And they said to me, well, they sit you down a lot to say things like, you need to lose 20 pounds when you already weigh 80.
Of course.
They sit you down and tell you things. And one of the things that this particular talk was for was to say, you aren't going to be a ballerina. And I was quite upset in that moment. And then they said to me, but we think you have a career as an actor and you should get an agent and get going.
Wow.
And they were incredibly supportive of me.
Wow.
Karina Bomers was one of my teachers, and she was just, unbelievable in terms of, letting me go. I was a member of their performing youth ensemble.
Right.
And she always would let me go to auditions, and I had another teacher named Debbie Wilson who was just always encouraging and always reminding me.
How did they determine that you would be a good actor from ballet?
Because of the performing company that I was in. I enjoy telling a story. And even when I was performing, when I was a tiny little girl on stage, that was what I liked to do. I made up a story for myself. And I guess from people watching, you could see that. You could see that I wasn't just doing the steps. And not there's anything wrong with that. That's what dancing is, right? I mean, there is a story element behind it. But I think I just took it a little step further, and they kind of were like, okay. What they said to me was, you don't fit in standing in the chorus. And you're not good enough to be a prima ballerina.
Well, at least they were honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I danced for 9 years when I was a kid. And
wow.
I fully understand what you say about when because the dancing isn't just about the steps; it's also about time. Because I did the exact same thing. There was a narrative thing in my head, and that's why I'm not dancing anymore. Well, that and my two left feet.
Same with me.
So how did you? So from there, what happened?
So from there, I my mother never not that she was against what I was doing, but she was just not a stage mom at all. And so when I said to her, I want to get an agent and I want to do, okay. She just said, okay. She didn't say, let me go and figure things out. Okay, that's all she said.
Wow.
And I went and I found a person to take my headshots. And I submitted my own stuff to agents. And, from the, I went to my interviews with the agents to see, if any of them would take me on. And one took me on. And then I took myself on the subway to my auditions and was the only girl in the room who didn't have their mother fixing their hair. And
independence.
I was very independent. My mother encouraged that. She always encouraged that.
And how old were you at this time when you were doing this
16, 17. So I was old enough. I was certainly old enough to be doing that kind of stuff on my own. That's for sure. But even then, you still see stage moms.
Oh, yeah. And so did you get any training out there? Did you go to school for it? Or you just launched yourself right into the business professionally?
I did. I just launched myself professionally. I think because I'd had a lot of performance experience as a ballet student, and, I used to take tap and jazz and stuff. Right. And I think that sort of held me in good stead about how to behave professionally. And I never took any lessons. I never went to theater school. And I just thought, people go to theater school in order to get a job. And so I was already working, so I couldn't understand the point of going to school to try and get it just didn't make any sense to me. I see my progression in the industry as an apprenticeship, the way they used to do it, hundreds of years ago. You learned by doing. Right. And that's how I feel like I've done. And I actually went to a summer program in London, England at the Royal National Theatre Studio for a summer I think it was 6 weeks or 4 weeks or something, just to see, okay, where am I and do I need this? Is this what I need to go and do? And I enjoyed myself, but I found, no, I learn better by doing.
I already know this shit. So then how did you wind up in the voice world? What happened?
I was actually doing a play in Toronto, and I was playing, it was a multi-generational play, so there were 4 women in the show, and we all played ourselves at different ages. So I, in one scene, played myself as a tiny baby being taken away in a basket. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it. But so the director had me sit at the side of the stage, like downstage left, and vocalize the noise, the crying of a baby. And my agents came to see the show and were like, oh, maybe we should be submitting you for voice work. And I had been asking them because I was interested in it, but...
Now, how did you get interested? Were you a fan of cartoons, or were you, how did you get interested in voice work?
I actually went to high school. I went to an alternative high school, and there were it was for professional children, basically. It's called Interact. It's an amazing program. Mean? It's an amazing program. There were athletes and musicians and all sorts of. Well, there's not that many when I was there because I was the first graduate of Interact.
Oh wow!
And now it's a huge program, but. We had kids from Degrassi on it, for example. But one of the people that was in my school was Tara Strong, who was Tara Cherendoff when I was a kid. She is a huge voice actor who now lives in Los Angeles, and she always did cartoons, and I just thought it was cool. So that was sort of how I was aware that was even an aspect of the industry.
Right.
And then, I sound young, and... why not try and take advantage of it?
So what was the first? Do you remember your first audition?
It was I believe it was for GC. It was for Blasters Universe.
And you booked it.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
I was very lucky, that's for sure.
Wow. And then it was just onwards and upwards from there.
Pretty much, yeah.
How long were you working in Toronto as a voice actor? And you were also doing on-camera stuff at the time.
Oh, yeah. I'd been in Toronto for a good, oh my God. I've been acting almost 20 years. I'll tell you how old I am.
You and me both, honey.
So I probably started voice acting maybe, let's say 10 years ago. Let's just round it off around there. Yeah, about 10 years ago.
And
you
moved to Vancouver when?
3.5 years ago.
3.5 years
yeah.
ago. Wow, you've made quite a splash in the short time you've been here, winning an award and all.
That's nice.
So what made you come to Vancouver? I mean, you look like you were doing fairly well out there in Toronto. You were working on a lot of shows and stuff, and and having some success. So what brought you out to our totally laid back?
So laid back. Actually, my partner, Ian, he got a job at Electronic Arts, the video game company.
Oh, that's
so
right.
So we moved.
Right. He works for the man.
He does.
I forgot.
He does. He's a software engineer and very, very good at his job.
Now, you met him in Toronto.
Yes.
And is he not your fiance?
He's my fiance, yeah.
There he is.
Yeah. I thanked him in my speech at the Alliance.
Oh, well,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you forget Terry.
I know.
You thank the guys.
So awful. Anyway.
Wow. Cool. Well, like I said, you've obviously done very well out here. It's
you.
You don't regret the move.
No, I don't regret the move. I don't at all.
Was it hard for you to just sort of pick up and leave? Because I think about that sometimes. In fact, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday at lunch about the idea about going to Toronto, and I have no current plans to do that.
Right.
Because professionally, I've got things pretty good here.
Yeah.
But I thought about that. I mean, well, how hard would that be to suddenly leave what you know behind, which in your case was the Toronto voice community? What was that like for you?
Well, it was really scary. I'd actually had some. I've been very lucky in my career, but right before we moved here, I had some tough couple of years. I didn't work very much, and so it wasn't as brave as it may seem that I picked up and moved across the country, because I just sort of thought, well, I might as well, I might as well try it. So. What I decided to do was I thought, I didn't even know if I was going to get an agent out here, let alone any work. Mm-hmm. So I actually started going to school. I set that all up before I even got an agent. I went and applied at the school. And
which school was that?
Douglas College in New Westminster. Mm-hmm. And I applied for the Child and Youth Care Counselor department.
Oh, for a real job?
Yeah.
You went to school?
Well, because I was like, I don't know. I didn't know if I was going to get just an agent, let alone any work.
Did you know about the voice world out here in Vancouver?
Well,
did you know about the cartoon world?
I did know that there was cartoon work done here because a director in Toronto and I talked about it. And she said there's a lot out here, so don't worry. You at least there's some auditions. At least you get some auditions. And I was thinking, well, yeah, if I get an agent. So.
And how long did it take you to get an agent when you got here?
Well, you will laugh. Because I took my demo out, and I walked around the city and handed it into each desk because I didn't trust Canada Post. No offense, guys. I
don't know, they're big listeners.
They're going to do something mean in my mailbox. I handed out my demos, and by the time I got home, there were messages. So
wow.
Yeah.
Well.
So I guess the thing is I had a demo, I had a resume.
Yeah.
So, there's not necessarily a risk in taking on a client who does have a body of work.
Exactly.
So
and, let me ask you this, because I don't know a lot about the Toronto marketplace, but here in Vancouver, it's kind of a small group of us that do everything. There's probably about 30 people that do all the work. Is that the same kind of thing that exists in Toronto?
It is similar, for me, I did work primarily in voice over the last number of years, but it's a bit more, it's not as specialized. There are some people who do only voice work, but it is not categorized the way it is here. People do go off and do theater, people go off and do film and TV, people sort of do everything. So it is a very small group of people still. But it's not, I don't know, there's this specialization that doesn't happen in Toronto that does here, which is actually really great. The people that work here are amazing.
The specialization is great, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think it's nice for an actor to sort of be able to be diverse and go off and do theater and not lose your place. If I went off and did theater, I would not lose my place in terms of when I came back, I would get auditions and nobody would say, oh, she doesn't do voice work anymore.
Right.
So there was that aspect of kind of you could come and go. Right. And I'm not quite sure because I haven't kind of come and gone yet from Vancouver, but I don't know if that happens here as readily. I don't know.
We'll talk to Kirby when he's on the show because he would know whether or not.
That's right.
Whether you could come and go from Vancouver. So let me ask you this. Often on the show, I ask my guests for advice that they would have for people trying to get in the business. And I want to ask you that too, but I want to ask you that from the perspective of somebody in Toronto. What's sort of the best thing if somebody's out there that wants to get involved in the voiceover world out there?
The best advice I could tell somebody, and this is sort of how I how I sort of did it. But beyond being my agent seeing me in that play, they sent me to take a workshop with a casting director. And that is the best way. If you have any ability, they're going to snap you up. They're going to audition you.
Really?
So that is the best way, in my opinion, in Toronto, to get yourself seen.
And does that happen? Does that happen fairly regularly out there?
I think so. I think most a good portion. Well, I don't know over the last 3.5 years, but I do. It did used to happen. Casting directors gave workshops. You could pay $250 for a weekend where you're in the studio from 10 till 5 and you end up with a little demo at the end.
And these are voice casting directors that do this.
Yeah.
See, that's unheard of out here. The voice casting people don't do that here.
Yeah,
the on-camera people do.
For sure. It's a similar thing. As I said, I'm not quite sure if that still happens.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good foot in the door. So remember, all you Toronto kids out there that are looking for a way in, you heard it first, right here on Voiceprint. All right. Well, we mentioned Canada Post, and that seems like a fairly decent segue to bring us to our next section.
Ooh.
Martin's Mailbag.
Martin's Mailbag.
Dude.
I love that bumper.
I like that too. That's good.
Martin writes in to tell us, here is where you can hear Maryke Hendrikse on YTV, currently on Gundam Seed Destiny as Luna Maria Huck. Luna Maria, is that right?
Luna Maria.
Luna Maria. As opposed to Lune Maria.
I thought it was Luna Maria at first, for sure. Yeah.
And on Teletoon, of course, as the Echo on Clash of the Titans, and as the award-winning Susan Test. It is Susan.
That's right, yeah,
Susan
that's
Test
right.
On Johnny Test. You may have also heard Maryke as Thunderblaster Transformers, Cybertron, Revy, of course, on Black Lagoon, and, of course, Yasmin of Bratz. A new chapter is beginning on Death Note on YTV's Bionics, so make sure you tune in for that. And for anyone coming to Anime North, Brian Dobson of Bratz Whale are also announced as guests, as well as myself. So let us get right on to the fan questions. We've got quite a few.
Love it.
First of all,
yes,
this is from Laura. Hi, Trevor and Maryke. Love the podcast. It makes me wish Vancouver was less than across a continent away. I'm currently in North Carolina on my way to Atlanta to try my luck in the biz. And good luck to you with that, Laura. Question muy importante. Do you write your own demo scripts? How common is it to get someone to write them for you? And how do you go about finding a good script that showcases your talent?
I think that your best bet is to get stuff right off the television. You can, I wouldn't suggest, unless you're a writer, I wouldn't suggest writing your own scripts. I think that that's not necessarily going to showcase you in the way that is best. And if you go to a good studio that produces reputable demos, they will have a huge binder of scripts that you can choose from, and those will often be stuff that's been produced. It's on television. It was an audition piece of material, and I think that's the best way for you to go about making a demo for yourself. In my opinion, I don't know. What do you think, Trevor?
I couldn't agree more. Actually, I think that if you spend too much time writing your own scripts, you're highlighting your abilities as a writer rather than as a voice person necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that's in the demo that doesn't focus on you as a voice actor shouldn't be in the demo.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, yeah. Exactly. Just lift it off the TV.
Yeah. You can look through some Saturday morning cartoons and.
Yeah, and nobody really cares. I mean, you really can't worry about copyright infringement at demo. It's just a demo.
It's just a demo.
Just stuff that it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So if you want to, do your best Optimus Prime, you can. Although I wouldn't recommend that because everybody's going to say you don't sound anything like Gary Chalk or the other people who've played Optimus Prime. All right, this one is from Michael from Toronto.
Hi, Michael.
Hello, Trevor and Maryke. First off, I'd like to congratulate both of you. Trevor, for putting together such a wicked show. I listen all the time. It's the best show ever. Keep up the good work. And Maryke, congratulations on your recent award. You're totally awesome.
Thank you.
I have two questions for both you and Maryke.
Okay.
One, when you're doing a recording session for a show, do you find that it's a great stress reliever to play characters that are crazy or can get away with things that you wouldn't? For example, Maryke, Revy.
Revy, that'd be a good example.
Let's address that one first. Do you find it as a stress reliever?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I find it incredibly enjoyable, but not necessarily a stress reliever. I'm not quite sure if that'd be actually a good thing.
To have your stress relieved by the characters you play?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because then I don't think it's serving the character. It serves yourself. And I think that when you're in a recording studio and you're portraying a character, it's about that character, and you can't allow your own issues. This is going to sound terrible. Your own issues to kind of creep in there. I mean, you can certainly draw from your own life experiences for sure, but it's about that character and what that character's doing.
That is the most professional answer I have ever heard on this show.
That's probably so over the top.
She's making all of us look stupid and selfish.
It's like,
I want her off the show. No, that's awesome. That I couldn't have said it better. I literally couldn't have said it better myself. Because I wouldn't have thought of it. So no, that's exactly right. And I couldn't agree with that any more than I do right now.
Cool.
It's true. I mean, you are there playing the character, and I don't like method actors.
Nope.
I think that method actors are selfish, and they're not. It's not about the character. It's not about the process. It's about them, and it's all about their own ego. And I find that boring to watch.
Me too.
I find somebody who's just all about their own stuff really, really boring. But when you have somebody who's committed to playing a character, and this is in any medium, voice, theater, film, anything, then that was well said. Oh, look.
Thank you.
Look at this. Brad Swale is on the phone
Hi,
right
Brad.
now, but I have to actually ignore him. Sorry, Brad. I'm doing a show.
Tell him I say hi later.
I will. And the second question Michael asked is, when you meet fans at conventions, what's it feel like meeting people that love you and respect you and think you're famous?
Do you want to answer first, or do you want me to?
Well, I just like to stress the think you're famous bit.
Me too. I like that part. There's no illusions on my behalf.
How many conventions have you done?
Only one.
Just the one?
Yeah, I've only ever done one.
You gotta come with us, man. You gotta come out there, man. It's a ride. It's a ride.
That's what I hear.
It's good times. I love it. I love meeting the fans. I mean, that's why I keep going back to these things. It's a ball, and I get to go to strange, exotic places like Toronto. And yeah, it's great. What was your experience like at the convention?
I really enjoy meeting the fans because, quite frankly, if it wasn't for them, I would not have a job. And I think it's part of my my duty and respect for fans. It's my duty as a performer to go out and meet people. But I am actually very uncomfortable at times because I don't like being fawned over. And so I'm not shy, but I'm a bit reserved. And so sometimes it's hard for me because people are so enthusiastic, and I just think I'm just like you, dude. Like this is
yeah.
So sometimes it's a little difficult for me, and not because I think that the people are being silly or anything like that. It's just that I have a hard time accepting, I guess,
that they think you're famous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's difficult. It's difficult for me.
Well, I understand. I have a much bigger ego, so I don't have much of a problem with that bit.
Mine was beaten out of me as a child.
In ballet class.
Actually, no, let's not even go there. That's true.
Okay, and onwards from next question is from Daniela, regular listener, regular writer.
I literally thought you were saying Dan, D-A-N. Last name Y-E-L-L-A.
Dan
Yella.
Oh. Mr. Yella.
Sorry. Sorry, Daniela.
Daniela says, don't even get me started on how much I love Johnny Test.
Oh.
You'll get the runs. Seriously, though. I love her letters. Seriously, though, you're one of the main reasons I adore it so much. Kudos, you're really an inspiration.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Le question. Could you talk about who inspires you as an actor? From both sides of the gender spectrum.
Is that part? I guess partly is who my favorite actors are.
Yeah.
There's a couple of female actors that I just love, and one is Annette Bening. I think she is astounding. Every moment, every choice that she makes is so committed. It's insane to me, and that's somebody who inspires me. There's a woman who is on ER. Yes, I watch ER. I still watch
Is
ER.
it still on?
Oh my god, yeah, it's so good.
Really?
Yeah.
It's still doing new. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's still the season finale last week, and I was like, oh my god, it was Very disturbing. Anyways, the woman who plays Abby, her name is Maura Tierney. Tierney? I love her.
Me too.
She's so
I'm
understated.
kind of in love with her.
Oh,
though.
yeah. I think she's just so understated and very natural in the way she acts, and I love it. And my other favorite actress is Jan Alexandra Smith, who is a theater actor in Canada. And she is brilliant.
She based back east?
She's actually from Edmonton.
Oh, well.
You're from Edmonton, aren't you?
Yes,
Yeah, she's from Edmonton. She worked for many years at the Shaw Festival. I had the huge privilege of working with her once. And the emotion that comes out of her is palpable.
Wow.
From an audience or a fellow performer, it is like, it's overwhelming.
Rip it apart with your teeth.
Yeah, it's incredible. So those are three women that I really like. Now, guys, the best performance that I've seen in a long time, and I think he was shafted in terms of Academy Award nominations, was Ryan Gosling in Lars and the Real Live Girl. That was a stunning performance. I really like him. I think he's very quirky and interesting.
Ryan Gosling, did he do the one about the teacher too? Or is that who I'm thinking of?
He's
the teacher on drugs.
Yes, but I didn't see that. Don't tell me how it ends. But I did want to see that.
But he is on drugs. I just thought is that a spoiler?
Ryan Gosling, yeah.
Yeah, I really like him.
Cool.
So those are some inspiring.
So okay, good.
Is that a right answer?
Yeah.
Danielle?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. She says yes. She had a really cool secondary question, which sadly we don't have time for.
Oh, sorry.
But next guest, Daniela. Next guest. Evan is from Edmonton.
Ooh, my favorite city.
Really?
Yes.
I don't
says
think I've ever heard
yeah,
anybody say that.
That's what everybody says. Chicago and Edmonton are my favorite cities.
Right.
I know.
Why?
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't want to disparage my hometown.
No,
God
but
knows,
it's your hometown, so you kind of think you raise your eyebrow when somebody says something like, "I love it."
Yeah.
I like the pace of life there, and I think the summers are incredibly gorgeous.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Anyway.
We do get a whole 2 months of summer there. It's quite nice before winter comes
so
back.
Beautiful.
And 3 days of fall. It's nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, Evan in Edmonton says, "Hello, Trevor and Maryke. It's good that you have another female talented voice actor in Voiceprint. Moving on, here are my questions for Maryke. 1, if you could have one quality from one of the characters you voice, which character and what quality would you pick? And 2, if you could rule one of the 7 seas, which one would you rule?" So the first one,
Lord.
If you could have one quality from one of the characters you voice, which character and what quality would you pick?
Oh, God. The show's going to be over while I'm still sitting here thinking. Sometimes I really enjoy how Susan Test on Johnny Test speaks absolutely her mind 100% of the time. And I do think people need a censor button. But every now and again, I think that it would be good for me to speak my mind a little bit more. I'm getting better at it, but
cool.
that's something.
All right, well, that's a valid answer. Valid answer. Jonathan, also from Edmonton. He says, "I'm starting to run out of questions to ask your guests. I think you designed the show so that we would run out of questions to ask the VAs at conventions."
You've discovered my evil plan, Jonathan.
Anyway, my question for both you and Maryke is that if you could become one of the characters you voice and live their life, who would you become?
I bet you everybody can guess. Revy, for
That's
sure.
a fairly clear yes.
Yes. What about you?
What about me? Oh boy, I don't know. I always answer with the default. The default is Mula Flaga on Gundam Seed, because he's so Han Solo. So really,
nice.
Speaking of Han Solo, tonight is the opening of the new indie movie.
It's going to be. I think it's going to be the number one selling movie of all time.
Could be.
I do. I think it's going to be.
I saw the
Spider-Man.
poster and I was like, oh my god, it's like Raiders all over again.
Totally.
Anyway, this is from Clive.
Hi, Clive.
Clive, also known as Outsider. This isn't so much of a question as it's more of a hello from Maryke. And he just wanted to let you know that if you still remember the Transformers fan in the black hat at Anime Evolution who mentioned a Ric Flair joke who bought her the Inuyasha book during the convention, you remember Clive now? He just wants to wish you happy birthday a few months ago.
Thank you.
It's a few days before
nice.
his. And, yes, so sort of a long belated birthday wish from
sweet.
Clive.
Thank you, Clive. Oh, that's awesome. I still have the book.
And our final question tonight is from Melissa in Toronto.
Melissa.
Question. I thought long and hard about this question from Ms. Hendrikse. So here it is. I hope this word. I hope I word this right. She says, as a woman in the voiceover industry, comparing the amount of competition between men's roles and women's roles, do you think on the woman's side it's easier for them to get roles, as it appears that there isn't as much competition? Or do you think it runs equally with the men? Or do you feel that the competition between women for roles is harder than it is between the men? Yes. So, competition between the genders, in your opinion?
I think there are more female actors than there are male actors.
In the voice world?
In general.
In general, I think you're right. Yeah.
I think that the men... I find people here so talented and so versatile that the competition here is extremely not intense, because it sounds like we're in the studio beating each other up, but very, very, I think it's hard to get a job. That said, I think you have to find your niche. You have to find what you're good at, especially if you're not I'm not particularly versatile in terms of I can't do 300 different voices, and so you kind of got to say, what's my niche? What do I do well? And go from there and just and do your best. So the competition, I think it might be a bit harder for the guys. But the thing is, there's more guy roles, generally speaking.
Right. And especially in cartoons.
Yeah.
The only thing that, I can't really audition for besides the obvious women's roles is little boys.
Right.
Because that's
you girls.
Yeah,
you got that covered.
Not me, though.
You don't go out for the little boys?
No, my voice is a little too light, and I can't quite get enough gravelly, cool boy.
You do have a very clear it's very pretty.
Oh, thanks.
It is. It's very pretty. And
thank you.
Whereas, when I try to do the little boys, it sounds like they smoke a pack a day.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
See, that's cute,
Give me another Marlboro.
It's cute,
Although that's the same with Drummond. When Brian Drummond does his little boy, he sounds very gravelly, and yet he gets cast!
Well, I don't know what happens there.
What's going on?
Maybe they think it's Aiden. Maybe that's what happens. They go, oh yeah, that little
boy with the beard and the nice car. Anyway, that about brings us to the end of our 15th episode. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you, Maryke.
You're
for
welcome.
Coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it was awesome.
Fun.
And you were easily the most professional guest I've had so far.
Just because of that one comment.
It's very humbling. Makes me feel like I'm going to chump all this time.
Oh, no. I hope I don't sound like so high and mighty. Oh, my God.
No. It's great. It's great. I really appreciate your input, and I love to be able to talk about the whole Toronto side of things, too, with you, which is awesome.
Cool.
And I hope that's helpful for our listeners.
Yeah. I hope so, too.
My next guest is going to be the lovely and talented Colin Murdoch. The man, the legend. I'm actually going to tear him away from his family life briefly to come in and sit down and talk to us about some voice stuff. And that'll be episode 16. But in the meantime, if you're in the Toronto area, by all means, come on down to Anime North and sit down and listen to me and Brian and Brad go on and on and on about nothing in particular, and get some autographs and all that great stuff. Eat some Pocky and all that stuff that I know you guys love to do there. Until that time, my friends in the world, in Canada, the United States, the Philippines, Germany, and all the other parts unknown that you write in from, I appreciate you all. If you have any questions for Colin, don't forget to write to Voiceprint at TrevorDevall.com. And as always, if you have questions, comments, concerns, I can be reached at fans@TrevorDevall.com. That's it for me. That's it from Maryke. Thank you so much, and we will see you on the flip side.